We are starting with the audio test, Pixel 9a versus Honor 200. This is the camera comparison video, 2025 versus 2024. We have a dual camera system on Pixel 9a, 50 megapixel or rather 48 megapixel main and 13 megapixel ultra wide. While we have 50 megapixel main sensor, 12 megapixel ultra wide and 50 megapixel telephoto on Honor 200. I think that's it for our quick audio test. Let the battle begin. Let's start with the widest field of view. We only have 1.5x on Pixel 9a and 1x on Honor 200, which is wider. You got a creamier background blur in the Pixel phone, but you can fit more in the frame on Honor 200. We got a warmer white balance on the mid-range Honor and natural looking tone on Pixel 9a. Going on the low light portrait mode, you will see that there's more details on the new Pixel 9a, while you have a beautified and smoother skin on Honor 200. On 2x, we got a wider field of view on Pixel 9a just a little bit. We also have more details on the face and again natural looking tone on the newest Pixel mid-range. Details are not so bad on the Honor phone, but you got a really good details and sharper looking portrait shots on Pixel 9a. Again, just a difference on colors of the skin tone, warmer on Honor 200. Both of these mid-range phones have portrait zoom 3x on Pixel 9a and 2.5x on Honor 200, which is wider. In terms of edge detection, I feel like Google is catching up with the competition. I like this year's portrait mode. The edge detection is very good, not perfect, but very competitive. If you're watching this comparison on a bigger screen, I think you would prefer the portrait mode coming from Pixel 9a just because of the skin color. But again, some might like the warmer, beautified, and brighter portrait mode on Honor 200. On the selfie portrait, you got more details on Pixel 9a. Again, just a little bit more details on the skin. While we have a beautified look on Honor 200, but if you look on the dark jacket, the contrast are almost the same. Now, this is the video quality test starting with the selfie video recording in 4K or UHD 30 FPS on both phones. I would like to say that the mid-range are the new flagship these days because of the camera performance of these phones. They're really good. We got a 50 megapixel sensor on Honor 200 and 13 megapixel sensor on Pixel 9a. Again, it's not all about the numbers in terms of video performance or image quality, but looking at the video quality on daylight condition, we got a brighter and smoother face on Honor 200 and we have natural looking tone on Pixel 9a. This is the same sensor as Pixel 8a. In terms of FOV or field of view, we got 0.8x on Honor 200 and also 1x. A little bit punched in on Honor phone. We have 1x and 1.4x on Pixel 9a. This is the quality 1.4x versus 1x. But we can go 4x on Pixel 9a. This is the quality. I don't know what the application of 4x on the selfie video recording. Most of the time, it's just handheld. But again, if you need it, then you have it on the new Pixel 9a. Switching back to the widest field of view on both phones. I think that's it for the selfie video recording. Indoors, later we will do the outdoor shot. Now let's check the rear cameras. Now this is the rear camera test starting with the ultra-wide lens in, again, 4K 30 FPS. So starting with the specs. 12 megapixel sensor on Honor 200 and 13 megapixel sensor on Google Pixel 9a. In terms of field of view, we got 0.5x on Google Pixel 9a and only 0.7x on Honor 200. Not quite ultra wide on the Honor phone, but you have an ultra wide lens on Honor 200, which is good. Looking at this ball, which phone do you think has better colors and exposure? I think that's it for the ultra wide lens. Now let's check the main sensor. Now this is the main sensor. So this is 50 megapixel sensor on Honor 200 and 48 megapixel sensor on Pixel 9a. The difference here is the resolution, 2 megapixel more on Honor 200, but we got 60 FPS on Pixel 9a. We are now shooting on 60 FPS on the Google phone. In my personal view, I think Google Pixel 9a has better colors in terms of video performance. I think that's it for the main sensor. Now let's check the optical zoom and digital crop. Alright, so for our zoom test, we have a telephoto zoom on Honor 250 megapixel while we're only cropping in on Google Pixel 9a. Which phone do you think is better in terms of the zoom performance? I think that's it for the video quality test. Now let's check the image quality. Right off the bat, you would see that there's a difference on the white balance, warmer on Pixel 9a and cooler tone on Honor 200. Colors are popping out on Honor 200, looking at the greens, the browns, and even the reds. And in terms of exposure, Honor is crushing the blacks a little bit. You got better dynamic range on Pixel 9a, like an HDR shot.
The wind would knock me down again and again. There was a time that I thought that I would cry without you. Helplessly hope.
On close-up shots, even though we only have a 1/2 inch sensor on Pixel 9a, you would see that the out-of-focus area is very good, just a bit noisier than the competition. Pixel cleans up the colors on the images while you got the more natural looking highlights and shadows on Honor 200. And in terms of field of view, we got ultra-wide main sensor on both phones, but we got the proper telephoto 50 megapixel on Honor 200. We also have macro shot. Starting with our outdoor test, we got Honor 200 cinematic or portrait video in full HD 30 FPS. Even though only full HD 30 FPS, but still we have cinematic on Honor 200. We don't have this on Google Pixel 9a. Now switching to the selfie video recording, side-by-side test between Pixel 9a and Honor 200. We got 4K 30 FPS on both phones. It's a cloudy day today. We will have rain and snow a little bit this week, so I can't give you a blue sky. But in terms of the colors, I think more colorful on Pixel 9a and natural looking, a bit muted on Honor 200. Let's check the video stabilization. Which phone do you think is better in terms of the stabilization? Now let's check the rear cameras. Now this is the rear video recording test. Starting with the ultra-wide lens in 4K 30 FPS, all shots will be taken in 4K 30 FPS. Starting with the ultra-wide lens, so what we have here, we have 0.5x on Pixel 9a, we'll have 0.7x on Honor 200, wider on Pixel 9a compared to Honor 200. In terms of the colors, we got bluer sky on Honor 200 and warmer on Pixel 9a. And also the grass, we got more colors on Pixel 9a, as opposed to a brighter but muted, well, natural looking Honor 200. This is 50 megapixel sensor versus 13 megapixel. Let's check video stabilization. Now switching to the main sensor, we got 50 megapixel sensor versus 48 megapixel respectively. So both of them are really good details in terms of the resolution. In terms of the colors of the grass, more colorful on Honor 200, greener compared to Pixel 9a. Look at the building, brighter on Pixel 9a. I'm not sure if I'm just seeing this on the screen. Let me know in the comment section below if you see the same thing. Well, if you look on the shot, you got bluer sky on Honor 200 and warmer on Google Pixel 9. So again, same tendency on the main sensor. Let's check the video stabilization. Which phone do you think is better in terms of video stabilization? In terms of zoom, we can go 3x on Pixel 9a. And we have 3x optical zoom, well actually 2.5x on Honor 200, but it crops in at 3x. So this is the video quality. I think they're almost the same though, but you got better details and sharper on Honor 200. Look at that building, look at that window. You would see more details on Honor 200 compared to Pixel 9a. In terms of video stabilization, because we're cropping in on Google Pixel 9a, I think it will have better stabilization because of the EIS or electronic image stabilization. But looking at the forward zoom, we got 0.5 or rather 5x on Pixel 9a and 10x twice on Honor 200. Also, in terms of video quality, much better on Honor 200 compared to the Pixel phone. Again, switching to the ultra wide lens, which phone do you think is better? Night shots are pretty good on both phones. There's a similarity on the image quality. We got better dynamic range and exposure on Pixel 9a, but we got stronger colors on Honor 200. This is a matter of personal taste. Google Pixel phone is color accurate compared to Honor, but if you want a more saturated and contrasty look, then go for the Honor phone. Now on pitch black condition, it's a different story. We got better night shot on Pixel 9a, even though it has a smaller sensor, but the HDR processing is really good. Actually, the images on Honor 200 is not so bad. It's just it's darker and the colors again are stronger, which some people might prefer. Checking all the FOVs on the ultra-wide and main sensor, I would go with Pixel 9a. Then on the zoom, which is the crop versus the telephoto, Pixel will still win my vote. Now this is the low-light video test using the selfie camera in 4K 30 FPS. Both phones can only shoot 4K 30 FPS on the selfie video recording. In terms of resolution, 50 megapixel sensor on Honor 200 and 13 megapixel sensor on Pixel 9a. It's not all about the numbers. In terms of video quality, we have a softer Honor 200 and we have a greenish but more detailed Pixel 9a. In terms of field of view, we got 0.8x on Honor 200 and we also have 1x punching in on the sensor, and we have 1x and 1.4x on Pixel 9a. We can go as far as 4x. So this is what it looks like on low light video. Switching back to the widest, 0.8x on Honor 200 and 1x on Pixel 9a. I think that's it for the selfie video recording. Now let's check the rear cameras. Now we're testing the rear camera starting with the ultra-wide lens. So a difference in field of view, we got 0.5x on Pixel 9a and 0.7x on Honor 200. So wider on the Google phone. In terms of numbers, we got a 12 megapixel sensor on Honor 200 and 13 megapixel sensor on Pixel 9a. Again, in terms of video quality and colors, we got natural looking tone on Honor 200 and a little bit greenish on Pixel 9a. But good thing both phones can shoot UHD or 4K on the ultra wide lens. Now let's check the main sensor. Now we're doing the main sensor, 50 megapixel sensor on Honor 200, 1/1.56, a little bit bigger on the Honor phone, and we'll have Pixel 9a, 48 megapixel 1/2 sensor, so a little bit smaller. But in terms of the lens, we have f2.0 versus f1.7 respectively. So in terms of the video quality in 4K 30 FPS, but both phones can shoot 60 FPS on the main sensor. We got a brighter video on Honor 200, but in terms of quality, the main sensor on both phones will produce the best quality video recording on low light condition. Now let's check the zoom. And lastly, we're testing the zoom on both phones. We'll open the lights for you to see a little bit of colors on this video. We have a 50 megapixel sensor on Honor 200. This is 2.5x optical zoom, so punching in a little bit on 3x. But we only have digital crop on Pixel 9a. Sadly, there's no telephoto on the Google Pixel phone. I think that's it for the video quality. So from the ultra-wide selfie main sensor and even the telephoto zoom, which phone do you think is better? Now let's check the video resolution. And lastly, video resolution test. So we have 4K 30 FPS on Honor 200. And we got 4K 60 FPS, the highest resolution and frame rate on Google Pixel 9a. I think that's it for our camera comparison video between these two phones. Would you like to have Pixel 9a or Honor 200? Leave your comment down below. And as always, thank you guys for watching. See you in the next one.